Yeah, should we start?
Yeah.
Hi everybody, hi Allah. كيف
I
لطفك? Good to see you. I miss you, man.
I missed
It's
you,
been a
man.
long time. I haven't been in Israel
I,
for a while. So I mean, I know that you sort of grew up in a Muslim Arab family in Beersheba, but your parents actually put a big emphasis on Hebrew growing up, right?
yeah, they put a big emphasis in Hebrew. I think they wanted to get improved with their Hebrew, so they try to speak with us Hebrew at home. We grew up as a native Hebrew speakers instead of native Arab speakers, Arabic speakers, and it's sort of like I don't want to say you call it coincidence. I don't think it's like sort of several needs that each of us had, like my family, my parents, and me, and my sisters, because we grew up in a Jewish community, and I think they knew that they didn't want us to get to be like at home, separated culturally from the school.
When you for many of your parts, you play actually Palestinian or an Egyptian or different Arab parts. Mainly, those
Hmm.
are the parts you tend to play. So how did you actually have to like work on your Arabic?
Exactly, that's what I had to do. I had no other option, but I think, and recently I'm figuring out that I had some sort of because I grew up in a Jewish community and I spoke Hebrew and my whole Palestinian Arab part of me was some sort of put aside in order to be able to communicate with people I grew up with or to be, when you're a kid, you want to be like everybody else. And so when I grew up and I figured out that in order to do what I love to do, I need to go back to my resources and to learn where I came from, and that's what I loved. I mean, I think when I figured that when I found acting, which I found very late, like I didn't know I'm going to be an actor till I went to an acting studio. And when I went to the acting studio and I realized that if I want to work, something in my look and something in my appearance, something, well, mostly in my name, Allah, mostly in my name would say that this is a native Arabic speaker. And so I had to learn Arabic. And the more I learned, the more I figured out it was always in my system. It's just some sort of, I put it aside in order to get to be more like everybody else in school. And I had to work on it. I had to work on it hard. I didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to write. I was sent. I mean, I people would send me scripts, and I couldn't read it when you first get the script. All the actors are joining in the table and read the script, and we try it, and the director just want to change several things. I couldn't do it because I needed to. I worked really hard on what was written in the paper. I mean, in the paper they gave me, and every change needs me to get home and sit on it and work on that change. So
I mean, you mentioned in your answer just now that that speaking Hebrew both at home and you grew up in Beersheba and you went to a predominantly Jewish school. And basically speaking Hebrew and you know getting on the very regular Israeli accent which you have was a way of fitting in.
mhm.
How did that work? Like, was it successful fitting in? Did you feel like you were an outsider or?
It was too successful. It was so successful. I couldn't find my way out. I mean, it was. I fell in love with the whole culture because what happened to me is that I today looking at it backwards, sitting every time we do the interviews, we ask questions and we talk about things, but every time we do it, things change, and I think about things more deeply. And today I think that I mean I improved my acting skills because I had to learn a culture that I didn't grow up in, and I learned it and loved it. And till today, like my first language till today would be I can say it without a doubt, it's Hebrew. It's what I speak most of the time. Today I have of course a lot of friends that speak Arabic fluently, and I have more time to speak with them, and I'm improving my Arabic every time a little bit more. And it captures a different place in my soul. Like it captures a place in my soul with time And I feel like the Hebrew language, as I grow up, I figure out the friendship I have with this language and culture, and the writers. I'm an actor, and actors really love words. That's what we love. We love languages. That's the main cause that we're here. We want to talk.
I wonder, actually, from your perspective, sort of having been steeped in both cultures, what do you see as some of the differences that come out as, so there are similarities. I would love to hear some of those. And also, as you talk about sort of the different languages being connected to different parts of the cultures of each culture, and obviously cultures are complicated, and there's not just one culture. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, one of the most basic similarities that I see in both cultures is um, the experience of I don't know how to say it in English. Maybe Yochai can help me. Plitut, palit,
Like being a refugee.
being a refugee. Um, it's both in the Israeli and the Palestinians' perspective. They both see themselves as refugees, and they see themselves as victims of a crisis, a war crisis, different kind of crisis, and it's maybe it has to do something with the writings because recently I read a book about the first writing of the Arab nations, the scripts that was written in the Arab nations around Israel at the time that the Palestinian and the Israeli war started to happen, like in around 48. And it took a very long time till somebody from the Arab nations around Israel write about the Palestinian conflict. It took like 30 years. I think it took almost 30 years till somebody wrote about it. And the first writings are very similar to the writings I found a very basic similarity of the writings of some of the writings in the Palestinian writings, the Arab nation around them, to the writing of Hanoch Levin. This experience of a refugee, of a person who got kicked from everywhere, and
I'll just
now
say
is
Hanoch
finding.
Levin for those who don't know. I'll just say Hanoch Levin is the kind of like the most famous Israeli playwright. Yeah,
I think
to
everybody should know that writer. He's one of the greatest ever written. He's the same size as Shakespeare, and Chekhov is that kind of big in my perspective. Um, and I found very basic similarity of, for instance, Hanoch Levin a lot of times writes about people, about the way things occur in the scripts are just people wait for years and nothing changes. That's Hanoch Levin. A lot of it's about people from the side of the society. He will never talk about the rich people. He will never talk about the businessmen living in Chicago or the businessmen living in the top tower of Tel Aviv. He will always write about the hooker, Neves and Florentine, looking for money to pay for the next drug. And the people, it's like sort of waiting. It's like very people that waits. And I read a script written in about 52 by a Palestinian writer that's talking about a car standing in a red light for 60 years. The couple got married in the car, brought a kid in the car, the kid got married, and now they're having a second family in the car while they're waiting for the light to change to green. So you see some similarities, the way they kept a more universal human thing. And when I found this kind of art pieces, that's things that takes my mind up, because when you move in a way, the Israeli and the Palestinian first demand for rights, each of them for his own reasons and good reasons, both of them. When you talk about art, eventually we're talking about two communities that talk about the experience of a refugee, and the differences between them. What I see is that the Israeli that live today in Israel are a little less, well, a lot less, they're more comfortable. I mean, they're starting to leave this refugee experience into the new global experience. Some sort of it's. I mean, of course, it's moving from experience of having now everything, having now the ability to take a car and drive to different cities, stay in hotel and drink in a coffee shop and buy a little thing over here, like some sort of new new world here. So they're a little less comfortable, still holding the refugee experience, which they haven't left yet. And also the Palestinians that live in Israel are living in the same state of mind, only they're holding the refugee experience much harder because it's a part of their personality and they can't leave it because it's sort of some sort of their essence to demand what they still demand. Am I making any sense?
You are making sense. And
Okay.
also from what I've seen of other interviews you've done, I love that, like, I asked a question about differences and you went straight to similarities. Um, so thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess one of the big questions that I was just like, how is that for you to play somebody who's so morally ambiguous like that? You know, so it's so. I mean, I don't know you as a violent person at all, and you have to play play this character that does such a crazy shift as well from the beginning to end. It's really amazing. So how is that for you to play a terrorist? How do you create such a shift in a character?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. And um, what was the most what I was trying to make out of this character is, of course, the change. And but the change was written in the script. I mean, I saw him becoming more radical toward the end of the show. And what I had to do, I felt that what my work was to try to justify and try to make his shifting be some more maybe rational, some more maybe with reasons. I try to find reasons for the radical change that he's having toward the end of the show. It was a hell of a journey for me because it, as an actor, but I mean, when you're a scientist and you're working on, I mean, when you're a psychiatrist or something, or you learn about to analyze um, psychological thoughts or psychological things in a human being. As an actor, you have to be the experiment. You have to take it and try to think these thoughts about yourself, uh, which is which is the hard part of an actor, and try to ask yourself, do I have do I have the ability as a person, as me, do I have the ability to become radical? What is it to be radical? What is it to seek for an instant change or for an instant revenge? For what cause? And am I willing to pay that cause? And Bashar's character in Fauda is willing to pay that cause, is willing to seek for revenge. I don't think I've ever chosen, maybe I will as a kid, which took me a while to figure out that I do have this part of me. But um, the first question that I was asking myself is, like I said, do I have it in my system? Do I have it in my DNA to be aggressive? Do I have it in my DNA to be impulsive? Well, impulsive, I do have it. I know it. But do I have it in my DNA to seek for revenge? And I answered myself, yes, I do have it. And I mean, everyone has it, I think. The ability to be destructive, the ability to seek for pain, to seek for hurting whatever caused you pain. And of course, it's politically. I mean, the thing about Fauda is it's very politically in Israel to do some sort of show is very politically complicated because you're talking about. Uh, I mean, by making that role, you're not just playing a role. You're playing a role that represents a part of the society that looks on you and asks himself, is that guy's representing us right? And I needed to get away from these thoughts, because each time I turn to these thoughts, am I representing the Palestinian nation right, while playing Bashar? And I decided that I do not represent anyone. I represent a person, and that becomes aggressive, that's seeking for revenge. And in order to do that, I needed to make his dreams fall apart in the beginning of the show. I needed to make him look like a dream kid who has only one dream. And his dream is to win, to be a winner, and that this complicated political, violent things that happen to him takes the dream away from him, as if you pulling you pulling the ground from his feet. And while he's falling down, he's seeking for reasons. Why did it happen to him? Why did he lost everything?
I wanted to follow up on, I mean, you talked a bit about sort of the political aspect of this series, Ella, and just I wanted to maybe make your life a little harder here, because you know, on the one hand, of course, Fauda is like a very political series. It deals with the conflict, um, and even I think there's a quote by Avi Siskharov himself, who's one of the two creators of the series, who calls this. You know, he says he says actually that the TV show is not a political manifesto. Um, and even though it's like such a political show, it seems that the heroes, both the Palestinians and the Israeli heroes of the TV show, you know, they have very personal motivations. As you said yourself, you talked a little bit about Bashar. You know, the motivation is more like, I had this dream of being a big boxer and it's been taken away from me. How do I cope with that personally in my life? And actually, like, ideology and patriotism or nationalism and all these different things don't really come into play. There's even this scene towards the end. Sorry for the spoilers here, anyway, but the Israeli crew is about to get the highest commendation of honor from the president of Israel, but they actually don't show anything of that ceremony. All they show is they show them sort of sitting outside on the curb drinking arak and not really caring about getting this, you know, incredibly big award from the president, because they're, you know, too cool to care about that kind of thing. And so my question is that, I mean, while some people applaud Fauda for, you know, being so even-handed and giving this even-handed portrayal of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and depicting players on either side of it, including Hamas, um, others, they look at Fauda and they see it as basically kind of this anti-Arab, even racist Israeli propaganda tool that kind of glorifies the Israeli military, who is always seemingly achieving the impossible and always winning in the end, and kind of showing us a caricature of the Palestinians, kind of, you know, in a way not unlike the, you know, Indians in the early Western movies. All the arrows of the Indians never hit, and one shot of the cowboy is, you know, always on the bullseye. And you see kind of the same effect in Fauda. So I was wondering if you had any of those feelings, or if you got any kind of feedback or pushback from people around you, or in general the public.
First of all, I mean, there are things that are true. I mean, in the third season, some of it looked sometimes it looked too easy for the crew to get over some sort of uh, a lot of Hamas people are are not able to be over few people with pistols. I understand that, and so of course it's script that can be changed and that can be improved in my perspective. But that's of course my as an actor and drama perspective. Um, it has
So
something to do. Look, it has something to do, of course, with there are like in each and every single drama, there is a hero that we're talking about his life, and there is an opponent that we're talking about his life in a different angle. Eventually, Fauda has and can do more work about trying to focus on a more specific way in the Palestinian characters. Um, but it's hard to say it in general because I felt when they did, I mean, me as an actor, when I did Fauda, I felt like they really, really want to focus on the specific specific events that happening to Bashar throughout the season. Um, but of course, with seasons, I think there will some of the parts. I mean, it's again, it's about the understanding of the other side, the understanding of the complicated part. I'm not saying it's. I mean, I can't lie and I mean and tell you.
Maybe I'll put this a little differently because I feel like I'm putting you in a difficult spot here. I don't want you to force you to criticize the series or not, but more maybe broadly. I mean, as I think we said earlier, Fauda became incredibly popular and
Yeah,
obviously speaks to a very wide sort of common denominator. I think it was the most watched TV show in Lebanon and has big viewer. It's on Netflix in the US and has viewerships in really all over the world. It's very popular in India and all kinds of different places. Um,
yeah.
and Fauda thrust you into the limelight, really. I mean, it,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, maybe how that did that change your life? Was that do you feel now more of an obligation to have a certain stance, to be more political, maybe, to use
No,
your
no. I mean, I think I'm really trying to focus. I mean, I mean, the political is always my work is political. I cannot say that it's not, but the my way of looking at it, I need to look at the drama. The politics is what people say about the characters afterwards. Political part, a political thing, is not. I believe, still believe that it's not dramatic yet. Maybe my perspective will change in a year or two. I don't know. Right now, I still believe that political has nothing to do with the drama. That the drama basically eventually is based on the relationship between a character and his father, the relationship between a character and somebody who hurt him. And in the third season, Leo is some sort of untrustful father to Bashar. Bashar has nobody. He has only Leo. Leo is, I mean, is caught lying to him, and the pain that Bashar feels is a pain of like somebody. It's like a father who lied to his son. I mean, that's how I took it. That's how I should have taken it. And it's not about Leo being a Jewish Israeli or an IDF. It's about Leo lying to him and taking his dreams away. So, but it's a different. I mean, it's an interesting. Like we talked about, what would happen if they would have a Palestinian writer, and I'm wondering about it. I mean, it could change and make things better. Of course, I mean, it's not something that I mean. Fauda happened. Fauda success. I mean, succeeded in the whole world, in India, in Lebanon, in Jordan, and in Saudi Arabia. People love the show. People want to see the show because they want to see the conflict. They're interested in what's happening here. They have no other way but the news. They want a filter of drama to be able to look in it in the screen and see what's happening in Israel throughout some sort of filter of drama. That's what the whole world is looking for.
Can I
Um,
ask you, like, what is your hope? And maybe this might be calling to that other interview I saw where you said like the point at the end of the day is melting the borders. But like, what is your dream here in this place where all of you live with such close proximity to violence and conflict? Like, what's your dream for what eventually could happen?
that people will find a common ground and will decide that humans are more important and people are more important and the life of the individual is more important than that maybe people need to give away a little bit of their freedom in order to find common ground for a way to make a living for both of the nationalities that that live here, that come to the screen in Fauda. And it wouldn't happen without compromising or giving up a bit of the freedom. And of course, nobody wants to give away anything, especially not to the other side. But my hope and my dream, you asked me my dream. So my dream is that they will be able to find it. Yeah, that's my dream, I guess.
That's powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much for spending your time speaking with the community. And
כן, תודה רבה לה.
really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
כיף לראות אותך, אחי.
Thank you very much, כיף לראות אותך. Have a great day. Have a great day.
All right.